Well, good evening, good evening, good evening. I want to welcome you to tonight's edition of Bible Study. Thank you for coming on in the Lion's Den. I am your spiritual thought leader, the spiritual thought leader, Regina L. Stillman, and I'm so glad that you joined me on tonight. I want to appreciate you for just coming in and bringing your energy, your love, your presence into the Lion's Den with me. Dr. Dady Priest, the high priestess, is here, and nothing but mad love. Thank you for coming in and spreading the love on your way out, and thank you for checking in. I appreciate Cassandra Isaiah. That's my sister. Come on in here. So much mad love to you. And to all of you, my father's children who might be listening and auditing but not in the chat, and for those that will watch on demand later on, I appreciate you. Now, you know how we do. We don't spend a lot of time just talking about this and that, but we like to jump in and get straight to the Bible study and let the people go. As we come in tonight, I want to, let's see, I had, where did it go? I had tonight all set up. Let me pull it up once more and again because it looks like I've lost that particular space. But the Bible study tonight, we're still talking about David. And you all know, I told you all, David's my guy. I love me some David. I absolutely, positively do. There's just something that is so special about him that I enjoy. Okay, I do have it set up. I just had to find the right tab. Um, I I I love his energy. I love everything about David. I love his transparency. Um, Now, even as I said, a lot of people go a lot of places with his sin with Bathsheba and so on and so forth, and how Nathan had to come to him and say, "Thou art the man." But at the end of the day, I'm just going to keep it real. How many of us just go ahead and fess up to whatever it is that we're doing or have done that was not necessarily on the up and up? I'm still not going to hold it against my brother because at the end of the day, I feel like he is an awesome example of humanity and loving and caring, not only for God, but also for the people. Now, I said that last night I was going to talk about David's Song of Deliverance. Let me put this up so that you all can see what tonight's study is about. We had the Song of Deliverance, if you look on pages 518 to 523 in Reese's Chronological, excuse me, would be where we are. And that's found in 2 Samuel 22, verses 1 through 51, and also Psalms 18, verses 1 through 50. Excuse me. Verse 4, 5, 6, 49, 50, Psalms 144, verses 1 through 15. Again, you find this jumping around somewhat because at the end of the day, we are looking at Psalms, and we're looking at Second Samuel, also First Chronicles, Second Chronicles, because we're doing this in chronological order, not necessarily just as the scriptures flow. I said I was going to talk about the song of deliverance in Second Samuel 22, verses 1 through 51, but I really thought about it, and I want to take item F. If you look under there, item F, David and Mephibosheth. I think that's where I want to go tonight. Second Samuel 9, verses 1 through 13, because there is something that is so, I think, special about this story. The story of David and Jonathan, and the love that David had for Jonathan, is often, as David said, greater than love for a woman. I love you. That's where people want to go a whole lot of places with that. I don't. This was just a brother that was just expressing how much he loved Jonathan, and I think it's a beautiful thing. Now, where we are now, Saul and his son Jonathan. If for those that may not have remembered, Jonathan was the son of Saul. Saul was the king. Saul became very wroth. He became very angry with David because, again, y'all remember when after David killed Goliath, and the women and the multitudes were out there singing, Saul has slain his thousands, but David his 10,000s. And at the end of the day, Saul did not want to be upended. Saul did not want to be shown up by, and it really wasn't something that David did. It was the multitudes of the people. But see, when you want the praises of people more than righteousness, more than other things, it becomes very, very critical to you as to what the people are saying. And I don't know about you, but I hope that you'll get to a point and place in life where, honestly, you don't care what people think. You honestly don't care what people think, and you honestly don't care what people say. Now, I know, you'd be like, now, come on, spiritual thought leader, we do care. And we do, I understand that. But what I'm saying is, I would hope, even like yesterday, or whatever day it was when we talked about David, when he went and danced out of his clothes, and his wife, Michal, got very angry and agitated with him and started accusing him. You're just trying to be all this in front of the handmaidens and da-da-da-da-da. David said to her, I will become even more vile than this. I will become even more undignified than this, because I'm doing this for the Lord. It's not for the handmaidens. It's not for anybody but the Lord that I'm doing this. That's what I'm saying. I want you to have that kind of energy, that it doesn't matter what people say, what they accuse you of, what their attitudes are towards you, or whatever. I want you to get to the point where, just like David, you can be, and I'll become even more undignified than this. With that level of determination to continue in whatever it is you're pressing into, but also, as the saying goes in the old school, like water off a duck's back. Because there's just something about the feathers and the down of a duck that in that water, it's just not going to get wet. It's not going to get bogged down and soaked down and da-da-da-da-da, like water off a duck's back. That's the way I would hope that you can begin to operate in this place and space of life, where you allow things to be just like that, water off a duck's back, and not allow it to impede your progress, not allow it to get you off center, not allow it to distract you, or any of that. All right. So we have the energy that Saul has against David, even though David loved Saul and David loved Saul's son Jonathan. So here we have the situation that ultimately Saul goes after, and David becomes the hunted. Saul goes after David, and his whole intent and motive and energy is to kill him. Now, I'm not going to go back and rehash all of that, but I just wanted to kind of, get you to where we are. Now, here we have Saul and Jonathan in battle, and unfortunately, both of them are slain. Saul and Jonathan, Saul's son, are slain. Now, the household of Saul is in flight for their lives. They're fleeing for their lives. Jonathan has a son, a small child by the name of Mephibosheth. So the story is, and you can go ahead and find that 2 Samuel chapter 9, verses 1 through 13. And I may put it up later on. I may not. I may just talk through it. But I want to just pull out the pieces and nuggets of this story. Mephibosheth, who is in the hands of his nursemaid, who's trying to save his life, anarchy and madness is about to happen in the kingdom. So what we see is in her haste, and this is the thing I always like to point out in the story of Mephibosheth. Mephibosheth is really almost like just an innocent bystander. Bless his little heart. This little toddler, this little baby couldn't, he couldn't manage on his own. That's why his nursemaid is carrying him. Now, in her haste, and I want you all to think about whatever your baby is, whatever it is that you're nursing, whatever it is that God has given you, I want you to take time with it. I want you to not rush the process. I want you not to try to hurry it along. And even if you feel, and I know a lot of times we can start having anxiety about it. Oh, it's not going to happen. Will it ever come to pass? I've been planning and believing in all of this since who knows when. It's passed you by. Your time has come and gone. All of these things start coming. If you don't hurry up and this and that and the other, and your resources are getting awful lean, and this is starting to dry up and that's starting to dry up. What are you going to do? We start having all of these different areas of angst where we begin to become very anxious about what's happening, and we'll pick our baby up and start running with it. We'll pick our baby up and start rushing, if I can put it in those words. So what we see happen here is that the nursemaid, in her attempt to save this child, she picks him up in a hurry and begins to flee, trips and stumbles, and the baby falls to the ground. The baby not only falls to the ground, but Mephibosheth, from that fall, finds himself crippled for the rest of his life. Now, I want you to stop and think about, what does that mean for Mephibosheth? Mephibosheth is the grandson of the king. He's actually an heir to the throne, but at this point, he's extremely young. And then pay attention to the fact that now is he not only extremely young, because we've had Josiah was king at the age of 8. Not only do we have this child who is extremely young, who is heir to the throne, and yes, the nursemaid did right for fearing for his life, because basically what's going to happen? They're going to come after him, after Saul, and any heirs that Saul has that could claim ownership to the throne. So we have this baby, but he's now crippled and impotent in his feet and his legs and his ankles. He cannot walk. If you really look at what has happened, in her haste to run with the baby, she dropped him and he's crippled for the rest of his life. At this point, he's sitting prey, a sitting duck for anybody and everybody, because this baby can't even walk. This baby can't, there's no way that he can physically get up and defend himself against an attacker or an enemy. So by rushing the process, by rushing and trying to hurry up and provide provision and safety to the baby, what she really did, in fact, was to end any chance at all that he had of coming to the throne. So now we have Mephibosheth, who's again the grandson of Saul, the son of Jonathan, both of them again dead in battle, who is now being reared and taken care of by his nursemaid, who then takes him into a hiding because now he's an outcast. So when I look at this story, I feel so for Mephibosheth, because Mephibosheth was just a baby full of promise that became victim to to his nursemaid trying to rush the situation, trying to rush with the baby. And so that's always my takeaway that I always like to share with people. God has given you something, but give it time. Give it time. Take time. Don't rush the process. Don't out of fear. And I understand exactly why the nursemaid picked him up and began to run. I understand it. But at the end of the day, that rushing and that anxiety, that was driving her to be somewhat careless, if you will, or even, I won't even make it necessarily carelessness, but even if it was just a matter of a misstep and a stumble, the impact that it has on the baby, because the baby is not fully formed. The baby is still developing. The baby is birthed, but it's still growing. It's still got development that needs to happen. And this, beloved, I want us to take the analogy and understand why you cannot rush your process. Why you cannot try to hurry it up when it seems like you're in danger, the baby's in danger. It seems that something terrible's about to happen if you don't hurry up. That impending sense of doom, that impending sense of this is not going to end well, that impending sense of if I don't pick this baby up and run for our lives, we're going to be destroyed. Because this is where it takes a turn. They live life as outcasts. But let me take you back to David, who becomes king. David loved Jonathan. David loved Saul, for that matter. Saul had allowed jealousy and narcissism and all these other ugly enemies of his flesh to take hold of him. You know, you got to be careful when God gives you status and when God begins to give you position, and you start getting caught up in your flesh, and you start getting caught up in your abilities, and you start getting caught up in your beauty and your magnitude and your magnificence. And I say this many times as I look at some people that are taken with themselves, and they look in the mirror and say to themselves, how great thou art. I do want you to know there's greatness in you, but I also want you to understand narcissism and egoism is not the way. So we had Saul, and that's exactly what drove that man to madness. They are saying, did y'all hear that? They are saying Saul has slain his thousands, but David, his 10,000. Baby, that almost drove that man mad. Almost drove him, well, really did. That evil spirit that was coming over him, baby, it had taken over his mind. Jealousy is as cruel as the grave. But this that I want to point out about David and why Mephibosheth, when really he could have been killed, he could have easily been slaughtered. He didn't have the means by which to defend himself. He really did not. But David loved Jonathan. And that love that David had for Jonathan extended to Jonathan's offspring. And I tell you what, when you really love somebody, you love everything that's attached to them. I'm just telling you, when you really love somebody, baby, everything and anything that's attached to them, you love that too. So here we find David, when he is able to get hold of Mephibosheth, he brings him into the kingdom and sets him down at the king's table, at the banqueting table, and esteems him and exalts him and extols him highly in the house of the king because of his love for his brother Jonathan and Saul. This is, and I wanted to, where is it? There, the definition, somebody asked how long he lived, 15 years, let me see, but I wanted to, what did I want? I wanted to get the meaning of, and I want to, I have an idea in my mind, but I want to say it correctly, because there in the Old Testament and in the old days, the names had meaning, and oh, I want to call it correctly. I don't want to say it incorrectly. Um, where is it at? I want to say it's something to the effect of like the shame has been dispelled. I believe, and it's been so long, y'all. I'm so sorry, but I want to say it is something, and I'm just trying to confirm that. I'm almost sure that's what it is, but I want to see it with my eyes because I don't want to tell you. Listen, as I get older, my memory, but I do believe it means the shame has been dispelled. I find it amazing that uh, even with the naming of a child at birth, how so many times their names actually became prophetic. Because again, at the demise and the slaying and the slaughter of Saul and Jonathan and the fall of their kingdom, how this son through David is brought back to a place where he's able to again have a sense of what was shame is now turned, and so I love that about his name, and I love that because it's such a beautiful idea. Again, even with that, Mephibosheth went to a place called Lodabar, if any of you are familiar with that term. And Lodabar, that place where uh, God took him and really sheltered him and cared for him. And as I said, if you take into account and consideration that by him being lame in his feet and his ankles and his legs, if you think about it in those times, because you know they didn't have prostheses and all this stuff that we have now, in his time, he was rendered helpless. Uh, but God made provision in Lodabar. And so, as we come into these types of stories, I wanted to kind of shift a little bit. I said I was going to do the song of deliverance, but I thought, and some people may not know the story of Mephibosheth. It's uh, I, I know in my church tradition, in my church home, Mephibosheth was not an obsolete character, but for a lot of people, some of you may have not heard of Mephibosheth, and so I wanted to just stop on tonight and let's just take a moment to reflect on him again. The idea: handle your baby with care and don't try to rush the process. Okay. And that, I'm not gonna try to listen, it's not even 6:30 yet, but I'm gonna get ready to wrap it up with that. Handle your baby with care and don't try to rush the process. All right. uh Mephibosheth is that example of what happens when we pick our babies up and try to run with it. um don't be fearful. Don't be frightened and intimidated. Don't be anxious for nothing. Be anxious for nothing. Don't let anxiety catch hold of you. And I don't say this lightly. I know that it can creep upon us. Listen, when you're looking at bills that are due, but you don't see money in the bank account and you don't see any money coming, when you're looking at these different things that are happening in life and they seem like they all have time restrictions and time limits on them that you're not going to be able to meet, I understand it can have that tendency to make you anxious and want to rush the process. But don't rush your baby, because I don't want you to drop what has so much potential for you and your life, and the baby itself. Um, let it be all that it can be. Let it be all that it can be without being crippled. And there's so many ways that we can cripple Sometimes, well, I won't even go into that because I started to go into different things that cripple, but that could be a non-ending list of things as well. But just think about it in your spirit, think about it in your heart, think about it in your mind, and ponder it, and just process. Where are you in the process? But don't try to rush it. Don't try to rush it. Understand what is at hand if you just take your time, be patient, wait on the Lord, be of good courage. He will strengthen your heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. All right. And on that, I'm gonna get out of here on this Good Friday. Dr. Dady, thank you for coming in, and I appreciate you, sis. Cassandra, thank you for coming in, and for anybody else, as I said, that might hear this later on, may it bless you real good. But remember Mephibosheth, and please, 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 don't drop your baby. I love you. I absolutely, positively do, and I want you to have a phenomenal evening. And I'm out of here. This is your spiritual thought leader, and I'm saying to you, I want you to have peace for your journey. Have a good one.